USC has been the punching bag for many critics and doubters. They're questioning Lincoln Riley's defense. They're saying that the Trojans, being the West Coast team, making the transition from the weak Pac-12 to the big physical Big Ten, they are not going to be able to have a lot of success with the brand of football that Lincoln Riley is known for. But what people are overlooking are the changes that Lincoln Riley has made to prepare his football team for the Big Ten this year. For all you people that keep saying, Lincoln Riley doesn't know defense, he'll never get it right. How can you say that when he's only had one defensive coordinator his whole entire coaching career, that being Alex Grinch, who arguably was the worst defensive coordinator in college football last season? He got fired, and you know who Lincoln Riley replaced him with? DeAnton Lynn, who has an NFL pedigree. His dad, Anthony Lynn, coached for the Los Angeles Chargers. And in one season as a defensive coordinator for UCLA, at the opposition right down the street, he took that defense from one of the worst in college football to a top 15 unit in the span of 1 year. Lincoln Riley also revamped the whole entire defensive coaching staff. You bring in Doug Belk to be your secondary coach. The past 5 years, he's been the defensive coordinator / co-DC at the University of Houston. He has coached 5 NFL draft picks, 5 first-team All-AAC selections, 2 first-team All-Big 12 selections. And in 2021, under Doug Belk as the defensive coordinator, Houston had one of college football's best pass defenses. They allowed 194 passing yards per game, which was 18th in the country. They were 5th in sacks, and their defense ranked top 20 in points per game allowed. They were 6th in yards per game allowed, and overall, they were 11th in total defense. And after that season, he was a finalist for the Jim Bortles Award. To get Doug Belk was a huge steal for Lincoln Riley because he's one of the best assistant coaches in America. And you mean to tell me that he didn't improve the defensive staff when you have somebody who was a finalist for the Jim Bortles Award a few years ago? What about getting the former head coach of North Dakota State, you know, the powerhouse of the FCS? Yeah, he has Mike Entz as his assistant head coach and linebackers coach. He was able to say, man, like, why are you coaching at North Dakota State? Leave them and come be on my defensive staff as assistant head coach and a linebackers coach. In his past 5 years as the head coach for the Bisons, he led them to 2 FCS national championship wins, and he had a 60-10 record, and he was a 2-time FCS coach of the year. This is somebody who possibly could end up being a head coach in the next couple of years. You get Eric Henderson, who has an NFL pedigree. He spent the last couple of years as the Los Angeles Rams defensive lines coach. Last year, the LA Rams had a top 10 defensive line. They were really good against the run. They also were really good at getting pressure on the quarterback, and he's been really good when it comes to developing the young defensive linemen that he had to work with the LA Rams. Remember Kobe Turner? You know, he was a big reason why Kobe Turner had the rookie season that he had. And not to mention, he also spent time under DeAnton Lynn's dad when he was the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. So you have 2 head coaches, right, and Lincoln Riley, and you got Mike Entz on the staff, who's going to be working on the defensive side of the ball. And you also have Doug Belk, who's a Jim Bortles Award winner. You can't tell me that Lincoln Riley hasn't made necessary changes to improve this defense. What about Sean Nua, who enters his 3rd season with the Trojans program? He was a semifinalist for the Jim Bortles Award back in 2022, and he also spent time working in the Big Ten for Michigan from 2019 to 2021, but yet Lincoln Riley isn't prepared for the Big Ten, though, but he has several coaches on his staff who have experience coaching in that conference and have NFL pedigrees. But Lincoln Riley and USC aren't ready for the physicality of the Big Ten, right? How about at the start of this offseason when Lincoln Riley said that USC was going to be committed to getting bigger in the trenches, especially with their defensive line? Did you know that since the start of their offseason program, their defensive line has gained a combined total of 340 pounds. They're on a new nutrition plan. They're eating right. They got a new diet. Their strength and conditioning coach, Benny Wiley, has them pushing more weight with their new weight gain initiative. And the thing that USC is doing to incentivize these players to gain weight is that you're going to get punishment at having to push some plates if you aren't gaining the necessary weight that they're asking you to gain. USC is getting bigger up front. They're getting more physical. This is not going to be the same USC team that we've seen the last couple of years out of Alex Grinch. Alex Grinch, do you know what his philosophy was for his players on defense? He wanted his defense to be lighter and faster so every play looks like a blitz. And we saw how that planned out last year. Everybody was running willy-nilly over USC's defense. They were soft and lacked physicality. Lincoln Riley and these players, after last year concluded, they knew what had to be changed. They knew that they needed to get bigger and stronger. They needed to put more emphasis on gaining weight and hitting the weight room. And that's what they've been doing this offseason. But let the people in the national media tell it. Lincoln Riley isn't making no changes at all. Lincoln Riley is inept of getting the defense right, but he has assembled one of the best defensive staffs in America. Doug Belt is a former finalist for the Jim Bortles Award, which gets awarded to the top assistant coach in college football, and he's one of the top 40 best assistants in college football. But I never hear anybody mention that when it comes to USC. I never hear anybody mention them getting North Dakota State's former head coach, Mike Entz. If you are saying that USC hasn't made the changes necessary to prepare for the Big Ten, you're severely misinformed. Lincoln Riley is trying to get it right. You can't say that he can't get it right when he's only had one defensive coordinator throughout his tenure. He's gone now. If USC would have had a top 70 defense last year, they would have been a 9-10 win team potentially. You keep saying that they're not ready for the physical Big Ten conference. But yet, this is the same conference that has only had 3 teams that have mattered for over the last 5 years. You mean to tell me that James Franklin is going to work Lincoln Riley? Yeah, I doubt that. I'd rather put my money on USC beating Penn State before I ever put my money on little game James Franklin being able to win a big-time game. This is the same conference that allowed Iowa to make it to the Big Ten title game, having the defense that scored more points than their offense. Pathetic. This is the most overrated conference in college football, and it's been that way for the last 3 years. You got Oregon, USC, Washington coming into that thing, and they're going to be way better than what people expect because there's just a giant misconception that these West Coast teams are soft and they just don't have what it takes to match the physicality of the Big Ten. I would say that the Big Ten is going to have to do just as much adjusting to these new Pac-12 teams like USC than what USC is going to have to do adjusting to the style of football that's played in the Big Ten. The Big Ten doesn't see dynamic offenses like USC that often. Outside of Ohio State, nobody else in this conference generates the kind of consistent, great quarterback play that Lincoln Riley gets year in and year out and has the talent and depth at wide receiver that he does. They don't know about Zachariah Branch, and I don't think they got too many people in this conference that are going to be able to cover him. We should not be questioning Lincoln Riley's offense. This is somebody who is the definition of the quarterback whisperer. He's the only coach in college football that can call himself QBU. There's not a defined QBU university in college football, a university that consistently pumps out NFL level talent at that position consistently. Lincoln Riley does. The offense is going to be fine. The offensive line, they're doing just as much as work as the defensive line's doing. I trust Lincoln Riley. He's been to the college football playoffs several times, and we seem to forget that his first season at USC, he won how many games? Tell me how many games Lincoln Riley won. I'll do it for you. 11. And yet we're questioning and we're disrespecting this dude, and we're not even going to talk about the changes that he's made on his defensive coaching staff. How disrespectful and ignorant can we be to this man? If you're going to talk down on USC, can we at least talk about the changes that he's made? Can we at least not give the full credit for bringing in one of the top defensive staffs in America? And these just aren't anybody. Doug Belk was one of the best assistant coaches in college football. He was a finalist for the Jim Boyles Award. Mike Entz was 60-10 and is a two-time FCS National Championship winning coach at North Dakota State. I just wanted to take some time to highlight the changes that Lincoln Riley has made this offseason to prepare USC for Big Ten play.